I've struggled with anxiety for many years, and it's progressively gotten worse. And especially over the past couple of years, the anxiety got worse, but also then I started experiencing depression. I had postpartum depression and just kind of thought, well, it'll go away. And then it dawned on me, my son was 4 years old, and it was lingering. And so I knew that there was something underlying going on. And so I started to seek professional counseling, really start trying to address those issues. And last summer, summer of 2019, was probably the hardest and darkest time for me in really accepting and realizing that that's what I was struggling with, and turning to the Lord and seeking His guidance. And as I was kind of going through that time, there was lots of anger, there was lots of frustration. Why is this going on? I am so blessed. Why am I dealing with all of these things? And through my prayers, I just said, God, if I'm going to go through this, you better use it. I don't want this just to be for me. I want to be able to share with others that you're faithful and you do provide and you will get us through this. And I tried so hard to find other women who had been through what I was going through, just to be able to tell me, you're not alone. And it was really hard. And it was hard because I didn't want to open up and say this is what I was struggling with at that time either. And so it was towards the end of the summer, and I remember very vividly, it was September 1st, and Sunday morning I could not get myself to church. And so I was sitting on the couch, wrapped up in my weighted blanket, and with my husband and my kids, and Clayton began talking about anxiety and depression and how God can use anxiety and depression. And I looked at my husband and I was like, oh my goodness, God's speaking to me. Clayton is speaking to me directly through the screen. And by the end of his sermon, I knew that God was about to do something big. I didn't know what that would be. I didn't know, but I was expecting him to do something. And that week, I was listening to a podcast. I had filled my time with, listening to worship music, listening to Christian podcasts, and just really seeking the Lord and begging Him to, fill my mind and fill my heart with things of Him. And so I was listening, and Kat Armstrong was talking about a book that she had just written, No More Holding Back, and she has a ministry called Polished, and she's talking about this ministry, and it immediately caught my attention, and I was like, I have to know more about this. So I began to look it up, and Polished is a network that gathers professional women to navigate career and explore faith together. And I have always been a working mom, and finding other women who work and are moms and wives and kind of do all those things, it looks very different, and it's hard to find a community. And so when I heard Kat talk about this, I thought, I've got to figure out more information about this. And I immediately began looking and seeing where their chapters were. They did not have one in Lubbock. They have some across the Dallas area, Oklahoma, Austin, Houston, and so there was a little button that said, reach out to us to bring Polish to your city. I thought, why not? I'll see what this is about. And so that was 3 days after Clayton's sermon. And then following week, I had a call with Kat and her team. And I told Kat, I said, this is the worst timing ever. Like, I am not cut out for this. I cannot do this. I've been struggling with anxiety and depression, and this summer has been hard. I can't add anything else to my plate. And she said, that's okay. God can. And I just began praying, and Kat and her team began praying and really just pouring into me. And I said, okay, Lord, if this is what you want, one, I need a lot of help and people to make this happen. And two, I need you to open doors. And so I chose to go to Dallas and visit and be there for one of their Polished events. And a typical Polished event looks like a luncheon where you meet from 12 to 1. It's professional women. And so they really try to respect time And they have a speaker who comes in who's a professional Christian woman who just shares on a certain topic. And they talk about personal and professional development and Jesus. And then my favorite part of the luncheon is then you get to sit, and after the speaker's done, you have a table leader and you talk to the women at your table just about what spoke to you. What did God show you? What has He laid on your heart? What can you apply to your work life, your home life, your sphere of influence, your faith? And then at the end of every luncheon, the gospel is shared. And so whether someone comes for professional development or because she knows it's a Christian event, every person gets to leave hearing about the love of Jesus. And so as I was sitting in Dallas, watching and taking in all that was happening, it's like I could just see the faces of women in Lubbock. And I saw the need, partially selfishly, because I wanted this. I wanted Lubbock women, and I wanted to be able to have this community, but I also knew that there was a need, and surely there were other women who felt like me. And so I immediately came home and just started talking to people about this dream that I had to bring Polish to Lubbock. And God immediately started bringing people into my life who were going to come alongside me and join and support and make it happen, because I sure wasn't going to do it on my own. And so throughout the fall, we just prayed and planned, and God did open every single door for it to happen. And in February, we launched our very first luncheon here in Lubbock, and we had one of the strongest launches that Polished has ever had. We had 35 women show up, and it was incredible. It was so neat to look at that room and to see all the walls come down for the women who walked in and just saying, oh man, I've been needing this, I've been needing that, I've been struggling with this, I've been struggling with anxiety and depression, I've been lonely, I've been seeking this community. And it was amazing. And so we were able to meet in February and March before we kind of put everything on hold, and Polish looks a little bit different right now, but we are already gearing up for what it's going to look like in the fall. And man, I miss those luncheons, and I stay in contact with all those women. I have already made lasting friendships and relationships with women. There was one young woman who I was introduced to, and we immediately began talking. She was a professional woman with kids, and through my conversations with her, she told me she was seeking peace. She just wanted this peace. And I knew, like, Jesus is your peace. And so I just kept praying for her and with her, and we continued to kind of talk and text and stay in contact with each other over the coming months. And she was able to attend the March luncheon, and she came and listened. And as she was leaving, she gave me this huge hug, and she said, let's have lunch. I said, okay, let's do it. And that week we had lunch, and I knew at every luncheon we have response cards, just like kind of at church. And so she had checked that she wanted to know more about Jesus. And Polish did an incredible job of training us on the Roman road. And we have these beautiful polished Bibles that have the Roman road tabbed, and made it so easy. And so I showed up to lunch ready to share Jesus with her. And she was so open to it. And throughout the lunch and talking just about life and this peace that she was wanting, I was able to explain to her that Jesus is the true peace, and He's the only one that can fill that void in your heart. And I was able to lead her to Christ. She accepted Him, and we have this amazing relationship now. It's so cool to be able to now lead her along and help her through, life's not perfect, and just because you accept Christ, you're still going to have struggles and trials, and hard things are going to happen. However, she now has that true internal peace that she was longing for through Jesus.